As a parent advocate, I know that families need a lot of information in order to navigate the special education system. This series of advocacy shorts is a collaborative project between ASSA, the State Association of Private Special Ed Schools in New Jersey, and the attorneys at Hinkle, Finkles, and Pryor, who generously donated their time and expertise to help answer some of the more common questions that families have as they try to advocate for their sons or daughters in the special education system. I hope you find them helpful. Ira, I hear from a lot of parents who are concerned about their kids taking time off from school in the summer. What is extended school year and summer learning?
Well, Brenda, extended school year programs are programs, as you point out, they're typically provided during the summer months. They're services that are often provided to help students who have difficulty with what we call regression and recoupment, a student who might not be able to retain skills over the summer, and then at the beginning of the next school year, they have to spend an inordinate amount of time relearning skills that they've already learned during the prior school year. So that's a frequent justification for extended school year.
Is every child eligible for extended school year programs?
No, Brenda, like most things with special education, everything depends upon the student's individual needs, and the decision is made by the IEP team whether or not a student does or does not require extended school year services.
So when the IEP team is deciding whether a student needs an extended school year program, what are they looking at? What do they have to consider?
Well, as I mentioned, the most common test, and unfortunately some school districts and even some parents believe that the only test is whether the student has that regression recoupment problem where they just spend too much time relearning skills at the beginning of the following school year. But in fact, the law is clear that that's not the only test that applies. As with everything, we look at students' individual needs, so some of the other things that we can consider in determining whether a student needs extended school year services are the severity of a student's disabilities. If we have a student who is significantly involved with autism, for example, and who has a need for a great deal of repetition in his or her educational program, then that student just may need more hours of service than a otherwise typical special education student, if you will. So that might be a justification for services during the summer. Or if a student is working on a skill that is particularly important to the student's achieving the goals of the IDEA, which is preparation for employment, further education, and independent living, and the student's about to master the skill, then we don't want to cut off instruction at the end of the school year just because we've reached the end of the school year. So maybe that's the reason that the student receives an extended school year. The point is that we're not going to use one black and white test, that regression recoupment test. We're going to look at all the factors and make a decision based upon what's appropriate for that student.
So what are some of the services that can be provided? And does the program have to be exactly the same as the regular school year program?
Brenda, you've touched upon another area of great misunderstanding with extended school year. It's often believed by school districts and parents that the extended school year programs need to mimic or follow the student's regular school year program, and that's not required at all. In fact, the extended school year summer services might be a very appropriate time to work on things that aren't worked on or can't be worked on during the regular school year. And let me give you an example. A student may have difficulty with recreation and leisure skills. A student with autism, for example, may not be able to participate in team sports like soccer or baseball. It may be very appropriate to have that student attend a specialized camp for students with disabilities where the student will receive targeted instruction in those areas, or even a camp with typical students with specialized supports provided by the school district to develop those skills that aren't worked on, at least intensively, during the regular school year.
So if a child needs just counseling, for example, or speech therapy, that can be an extended school year program.
Certainly. Related services can constitute an extended school year program, and sometimes that's very appropriate in the case of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, counseling.
Does a parent have to pay for the extended school year and provide transportation, or is that part of the IEP?
No, just as everything else in special education, services have to be provided at no cost to families. And if a student requires a particular service in order to receive an appropriate education, the school district needs to provide the transportation for that service.
And what would you tell a parent if the program that their child is going to doesn't offer an extended school year program? Can they go to another school or a camp program that provides the services that they need for the summer?
Certainly, Brenda, and that's often the case that school districts sometimes will make the argument that the extended school year program isn't available because either we don't have one if it's the school district's program or whatever school the student's placed into, and if the student requires an extended school year as determined by the IEP team, then appropriate arrangements need to be made, whether it's placing the student into another school's extended school year program, or as you mentioned, providing a camp program or some other type of program that will fulfill the needs that we're seeking to fulfill during the summer.
Some school districts say that they won't pay for camp programs, that it's not really extended school year. What's the difference between camp and extended school year?
Well, sometimes, Brenda, there is no difference, and while it's certainly not the norm, a camp program, again, whether it's a specialized program for students with disabilities or a typical camp program, a camp for typical students, where the student with disabilities is provided with individualized supports on site at that camp, may be the placement that's made for the extended school year.
Wow. So if a child gets extended school year 1 year, does it automatically mean that the child needs the extended school year for the rest of their school career?
No, like everything else, everything's reviewed on an annual basis through the IEP process. It's not automatic that a student will receive an extended school year, year after year, but typically if a student requires an extended school year 1 year, we should expect that the student will require extended school years in subsequent school years.
And what do parents do if they believe that their child needs an extended school year program and the district disagrees?
One of the difficulties with extended school year, Brenda, is how tight the timelines are, because school districts often don't tell parents whether or not they'll agree to an extended school year program until close to the end of the school year, so it may not be possible to go through the dispute resolution procedures provided by the special education laws like mediation or due process hearing. In situations where it's not possible to convince the school district to provide an appropriate summer program, parents do have the right to provide services themselves and then seek reimbursement from the school district. If they're going to do that, it's very important that they provide written notice to the school district, and the written notice has to contain 3 key elements. One is a statement that they're dissatisfied with the decision not to provide extended school year services. Second is notice that they're placing the student privately into an extended school year or a summer program or a camp program, whatever it may be. And third is notice to the school district that the parents are at least reserving their rights to seek reimbursement for those services.